Hi, my name is April, and this is the third video I am making about my cabin build off-grid. Today I'm going to talk about how I put siding on my off-grid cabin. You can see there where we left off with roofing and framing complete. First, I put Z-channels. You see the metal strip there along the base of each wall. I'm using T111 siding. I was trying to get the thinner 3/8 version, but they were out a long time here on island. So the first round I ended up getting the thicker 5/8, but later I did go back to the 3/8. So I have a little bit of mixed walls, but the thicker is wonderful. It's just much more heavy and more expensive. I again had Yvonne's help today for doing the first sets of siding, especially with those thicker panels. It's really hard to maneuver, especially over the lava rock here with one person. I did put some nails on the bottom just to kind of hold it in place before I could nail everything in and clamp it in straight and level. So these are the first two panels. For the doorway, I put up the panel first and held it in place, had Yvonne actually hold it while I went inside, traced the doorway, took it back down, used a circular saw to cut out the doorway and then put it back up. I'm actually going to use that doorway piece to make doors. And here we have two walls in place. On the right hand side of the front wall, you can see a little bit of a gap. That is because I used the full length joists, the 8-foot joists, and then on top of that, you got two more 2x4s on the ends. So the actual width of the cabin is a little bit over 8 feet, and these come just over 4 feet a piece. So I ended up using some trim to just cover up the gap there. A view from the inside of the first sheltered corner and the inside of the doorway opening. And here you can see I was still using hammer and nails, no nail gun. On the siding, I do recommend if you have a nail gun, it will save a lot of time. But I did use just regular siding nails here and ended up making it work for our very small cabin. And I did use screws actually to hold it initially in place on the corners and things before I ended up going back and nailing all of the rest of the nails. We had a fun chameleon visitor this day. They finally had the sheets in stock, so here I brought them straight down. Yvonne's in the background. It is raining hard, but we got the other sheets up. Here is the third wall of siding up, and the fourth wall on the left with another doorway. For the gable portions, I cut a full triangle and then tacked it in place and cut out the half of the window. Each of these sheets is basically half the width of the cabin, so that was easy to do. I did half the window, then put up the other sheet, and then cut out the other half of the window with the Sawzall. I did make one mistake. The sheets have an overlapping portion, so kind of an outer and an inner piece where they connect, and I cut 4 left side triangles rather than 2 left side and 2 right side for the gable. So I did have to go back and cut out of the remainder of the siding that I had. Luckily I had just enough, but definitely something I'll double check next time. Here I'm tracing out 2 more triangles to get the correct side, but you can see the tip sticking over there. I had just enough, but it was going to leave a gap, so I had to patch that up. Here you can see at the top of the triangle on the right hand side that there is that hole. I just made a piece out of plywood to fit in there. Here's that triangle piece that I cut out. So I ended up painting and starting some of the trim. You can see how the trim here covers up the holes and the gap between the siding. Some people use another Z-channel between the siding pieces. I decided not to do that because I have a little bit of a gap anyway, and I just used a lot of silicone on top of the trim to try to keep the water from running underneath the bottom piece of siding. And on the back side of the gable, it was much higher, so I painted these ahead of time rather than trying to do it up on the high ladder. And I also had Yvonne's help on this side. And here you can see both the gable pieces in place and the window opening cut out. And there the top trim is in place, also covering up that triangle plywood piece that I had to put on this side as well. For the dormer openings, I did kind of the same. I had one large piece I just put over, traced, actually I put it in place and then I cut out with the Sawzall the window opening. Here's what it looked like from the inside of the dormer. I just cut a little square hole in it beforehand so I could get the Sawzall in there to cut out the rest of the window opening. And here is the finished siding with most of the trim in place. And next time I'll be putting in the windows. So thanks again for watching and coming along on this cabin journey with me.